Welcome to Questions, Coffee, and Cars. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And this is Questions, Coffee, and Cars 178. How do you get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out on Instagram asking for questions. Once we gather them, the post is deleted and we start the show.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
Need to know the details on the Acura 2026 RDX. I really want a V6. And there were rumors and murmurs
That it's coming back?
with the V6. I would be absolutely shocked if Acura brought a V6 back for the RDX.
I mean,
after
anything
all
is
these
possible.
years.
I just don't believe it.
I would just be shocked.
Yeah.
They just did a refresh on it and still has the trackpad, but
I think people are just reading into the fact that the Passport has the V6 and the Pilot, they kept the V6. So where are they going to put it? I just don't think so.
I don't think so either. But hey, you never know. Unless they can make it more fuel efficient, I don't know. I mean, the Pilot and the Passport, they don't get stellar fuel economy. Neither does the MDX.
I would write a very special, nice note to Santa and see if Santa could work something out for you.
You often mention that car deposits are refundable. Are they truly refundable in all cases? Can you cancel your booking at any time? I've heard some horror stories where once you sign, dealers refuse to let you cancel no matter what. I've placed a refundable deposit on a Sienna, but now I'm having second thoughts. Can I cancel the booking right away, or do I have to wait until the car arrives? So first off, I just want to say, when we say make sure you get a refundable deposit, if the dealership says to you, sorry, we can't do that for you, and I probably wouldn't order the vehicle from that dealership.
Okay, so it's dealer specific.
Yeah.
It's not a blanket statement. What we're advocating is if you put a deposit, make sure it's written in the contract, fully refundable deposit. And if the dealer won't do that for a mainline car, for like a Sienna, trust me, there's about 6,000 other people who want that Sienna, so they'll have no problem getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Then move on and get the car from somewhere else. However, if it's a very specific kind of car, say you're somebody that is ordering a Corvette and you want it in purple with yellow seats, and they're going to say, dude, if you want that, there's no refund.
No,
you're buying the car.
And that's fair. That's fair.
And it came up recently, and we brought this up with the manufacturer. The new Golf and the new GTI and the Golf R have just come out, and I'm a member of the Facebook group where all these people talk about the cars. And somebody said they went to the dealer and they wanted to put a deposit down on a Golf R, and the dealer said it's non-refundable deposit, and that's because of Volkswagen Canada has said that. So we got in front of Volkswagen Canada and said, what the hell's going on? Why are you saying it's got to be a non-refundable deposit? And they said, well, that's just dealers being dealers. It's got nothing to do with us. They said, we don't sell cars.
Nope.
The dealers sell the cars. So if they're putting that stipulation in, that's on them.
It is definitely driven by the dealership. So you could go to another dealership. It's good that you got a refundable deposit on your Sienna, but you have to ask more questions before you sign those dotted lines to make sure if you do decide that you don't want the Sienna. And I also think if the wait time for the Sienna is 1 to 2 years, I think that's pretty fair in that timeline that you decide that you're going to change your mind based on maybe a newer vehicle coming out. But you have to do your due diligence at the dealership level.
Just one last thing. If it's a unique and different kind of car that the dealer might have a hard time selling, then yes, they might say, we're going to bring the car in, but you have to commit to buy it.
Yeah.
Or they might even say you got to pay for it in advance. I'm not sure how that would work. But if it's just a regular mainline car, you got to have fully refundable deposit.
You know, we were at Porsche. We had brought our vehicle in for maintenance, and on the floor they had, I can't remember, I think it was a Cayenne.
It was a Cayenne GT, the high performance 600 horsepower
It had
one.
bronze wheels. You could see the color, everything, that this was custom. And I said to the general manager, what's the deal with this? And he said, oh, this was custom. And now we've got it, and it's a fortune, and they're trying to sell it. And nobody wants it because it was custom. So I don't know In that case, if I doubt it was a refundable deposit, but the person ran into financial trouble
They had
and
to
couldn't
walk.
get it,
Yeah.
and there may have been a penalty.
Well, they
for
might
that.
have to just walk from their deposit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're ordering a almost $300,000 car, the dealer is not going to soak. I mean, that's an issue. That's
an
the world
issue.
they live in,
Yeah.
way up there.
Yeah. A two for screens. Do you prefer horizontal like Kia Cadillac or vertical like Tesla Subaru? And second, any update on Rivian? Have you made peace?
We talked about that
We
last
talked about
question.
the last one.
got
I mean,
no issue-
hopefully you caught it.
We have no issue with Rivian.
We like Rivian.
They had an issue with our video, so we'll reach out to them again.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to go horizontal or vertical?
Or vertical.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. We haven't done a 3, 2, 1 in a while. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Horizontal. Yeah, I just prefer the more streamlined look myself than having the tablet at the center console. Just personal preference. Love the channel and all you put into it. Thank you. Will the divergent changes in reliability for Toyota and Hyundai ever be reflected in their reputation and resale value? I know all manufacturers have issues, but it seems some have far more than their reputation suggests and some far less. That is true. I'll speak to Toyota with some of their newer models like Tundra and Tacoma. They've had issues with the engine. But the thing about Toyota is they've been in the market proving themselves for so long that people still feel that their reputation is very good. Toyota also has a lot of pride in their reputation. And so, like with Tundra, they said they were going to replace all those engines. It's not great for Toyota, and they're aware of it, but I think people forget. And sometimes Honda has issues as well, and people still think Honda is the most reliable.
I'm smiling over here because it takes decades to build a brand, and it takes decades to get away from your past, and sometimes you never do. Like, we will put a video out on a General Motors product, and people say, that's a piece of crap, I never buy a Chevrolet. And then they say, I had a 1984,
And it was nothing but trouble.
It was nothing but trouble. And I'm like, yeah, okay, they never changed since 1984. Like, come on.
Same with Ford.
Even in 10 years, these car companies are totally different than they were. So it takes decades and decades and decades to get away from your past, and sometimes it never goes away, the hangovers that you have. But on the flip side, you have decades and decades and decades of goodwill with Honda, with Toyota, and people are willing to pay. And they're willing to pay top dollar, especially in the used market, for their products, because if you're going to go to Vegas and take a shot, you got a better shot with them.
I mean, and when you look at Hyundai, many of their vehicles have been reliable, but then, they've had issues as well.
Andrea,
and then,
I had a Hyundai Pony when it first came out, and it was a rusty piece of crap. Never buying a Hyundai again. That's what you're up against.
And then people remember, and they go, oh my, Hyundai is terrible, or Ford is terrible, or Chevrolet is terrible. I really think perception in the market is massive.
And
Toyota and Honda, people look at them and they just feel confident about putting their money with those two brands.
And the internet loves to perpetuate these stereotypes and myths, often myths. We have been talking about this forever. That Buick is near the very top of quality scores year after year after year. And Consumer Reports came out with a study recently, and it had the best used vehicles to buy. And it even had Buick near the top, but people won't believe it. They'll go, I've never bought, we had a Cutlass and it was terrible. Oh, that was Oldsmobile. We had a Buick Century and it was terrible.
I know. I was actually a Ford family growing up. My parents owned a lot of Fords, and then I bought a Dodge Colt, and it was just so reliable and fantastic.
But it was not a Dodge. It wasn't a Dodge.
No, it was a Mitsubishi. But my mom then ended up getting a Dodge Colt, but she had to fight with my dad to get it because he was like, "We're not getting a Dodge.
We're a Ford family."
Yeah, it was quite interesting. So people really become somewhat devoted to their brand.
Yeah, but the irony is your dad at the end had a Camry and then a Civic.
He did. He did have that. It's funny. And my mom, though, and Phil, they drive a Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid, and it's been very reliable for that.
Thank you. Because if it wasn't, boy, we'd hear about it.
It's been good. Does it make sense to have a gas car for longer road trips, but get an older, cheap EV like a Leaf or Bolt for around town commuting? At least in the U.S., used cars are eligible for a $4,000 tax credit, and you can find many low-mileage Leafs and Bolts for less than $15,000.
Well, there's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to do it. You can buy an electric car that is good for going longer distances. I'm kind of in your camp, though. I think a little urban runaround, I would get the Bolt personally. A little urban runaround like the Bolt for bombing to go to the grocery store and go to the hardware store and stuff like that. But then when you're on the long road trip,
take something else. I actually like this idea a lot. The only thing I caution about it, you don't have to look at electric vehicles do depreciate quicker than gas models and hybrids.
But
so
somebody's already eaten that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is actually a good thing. Don't get one that's super old.
Oh, I just want to jump in
on
that. No, because the Bolt, all the batteries were replaced.
No, that's a special thing. But what I'm saying is, like, sometimes we get a really old one. They don't have the battery available to replace it. So get something that has depreciated enough.
I like the Bolt
do your
idea.
research, and I like the Bolt. I think the Bolt's a great idea. We have a neighbor who's actually moved away, owns an old Leaf.
Yeah.
Still going.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember what year the Bolt was updated. They did a little facelift. I think it was around 22, 21.
Yeah, I think it was 2021 that it had the issues.
Yeah, and so, no, it's like the first Bolt with a B came out, and the interior was a little too plastic fantastic, and the seats weren't that comfortable. And then they did an update on it, and they got better seats and better interior. And then all of them had the batteries replaced. So and that was only done a year and a half ago. So what I would look for, the sweet spot is the one that was the facelift one with the better interior, and then they will have all had the battery changed. That's a hell of a good, and you're right, they eat the depreciation, someone else can eat that. That's a great little runaround.
I would totally do that. And the fact that you get a tax credit on used vehicles is fantastic.
Andrea, I want one now.
Hi, Zach and Andrea, longtime viewer here. Love you guys. Thank you. Any updates on Toyota bringing back the Celica and the MR2? Oof.
There's a lot of rumors about that.
Lots of rumors, yeah. Well, actually, Forbes is reporting. Here's something interesting, that the MR2 and Celica sports cars with 400 horsepower will make a comeback. So they're saying like some good power.
Now that'll be hybridized, I'm sure.
No, it says the rumors are they won't be a hybrid or a battery electric vehicle. They'll have a 2-liter turbo with 400 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque.
That's a lot.
But there's nothing firm from Toyota, and the rumors are mid to late 2026.
Well,
Zach had one.
I had one. I had I'm going to say it in a Canadian way because it's so crazy the way things are said north and south of the border. So I had what's called a Toyota Celica. I had a Toyota Celica GT, the notchback. And the thing is, Prelude is coming back. It's just such a small market. I would just wish that they would use the factory capacity, produce the cars that people are still waiting on.
Yeah.
But then I guess they say we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
But they also want a larger portfolio. I mean, Zach and I talked about that. Sometimes like they bring out this more powerful model and I'm like, why? It's just such a niche market and not many people will buy it. But it's all about expanding the portfolio and offering a lot. There's a lot of pride in that.
But they already have a Supra.
But they're eliminating the Supra.
Remember,
they're coming out with a special one.
Are they getting rid of the Z4? I don't know. That'd be interesting to watch. Anyway,
Z4.
Yeah, the BMW is based on the BMW. Remember the Supra?
I know, but I don't think they're getting rid of the Z4.
I know. That's what doesn't make sense to me. Anyway.
But they did come out with a Supra, like a
Should I
special
get a
edition.
Celica, Andrea?
Celica.
All right, let's move on.
Does the oil I use have to be high quality all the time? I'm doing regularly scheduled oil changes. I live in Winterpeg, and I'm thinking of using the more expensive oil for the more challenging part of the year on my CX50 Turbo Meridian, to be specific.
Okay, I'm not sure if the car requires mineral oil or synthetic. But if you're buying even the least expensive Walmart kind of oil, it has to meet a certain petroleum standard. And whatever you put in the car, there's rules for what makes motor oil. So even if you put the cheapest oil in, it would be at a certain standard. But I'm the opposite. I'm like, I put in the best oil I can because it's the cheapest form of maintenance.
And Mazda agrees with you, Zach. They recommend genuine Mazda oil. Mazda says that lubricants have been approved by Mazda engineers, combining leading edge additive technology.
That sounds like marketing mumbo jumbo. You got to bring the car back to the dealer nonsense to me. I would say if you're going to use a high quality oil like liquid moly or Motul, or there's lots of different brands out there, even Quaker State and stuff, mainline Pennzoil. I could go on and on and on.
But oil's not that much. I mean, that's just kind of part of. I would go with what Mazda is telling you. You'll get your best performance out of the vehicle. That's just how I feel.
I would go with a high quality aftermarket oil, but you don't need to. Like, back to the point, a baseline oil, like a cheap oil from Walmart, has to be at a certain standard. What you need to find out from your owner's manual from the dealer, if it requires synthetic or it requires mineral oil. That's one thing I don't know.
Any thoughts on buying out a lease 2024 GV80 after warranty? Great experience so far. Well, I think that's a perfect example of leasing versus buying initially, driving it for 3 to 4 years and finding that the experience has been great with no issues at all. Zach and I never get an extended warranty. We have some older vehicles and we have some brand new vehicles. And we just kind of
roll the dice
and see what happens.
But the thing is, not sure where you are. In Canada, the warranty is 5 years for a Genesis. So that's good. And your lease would probably be 3 or 4 years. So you're still going to be under warranty. And because you don't own the car, you're the leasee, Genesis owns the car. It should qualify for a certified pre-owned. I don't know what Genesis, I haven't looked into it, what their certified pre-owned program is. You might be able to extend it and then keep it under warranty. The one thing I would check, though, is GV80 residual values in the used market versus what your buyout is. Because Genesis has not, as much as we like driving them, their resale value hasn't been as strong as other luxury brands. Yeah, so you don't want to buy out your lease, and you might be paying more than you could have got one used somewhere else.
No, and also you should tell the dealership that, too, when your lease comes up. I mean, even though that's typically set in stone, maybe walking away from the lease. I mean, it's a shame because you really enjoy the experience and it's been a great vehicle.
And it's been your car, so you know the history. So if it was within like a couple of $1,000s, I wouldn't really care that much because it's my car. I don't like the fact that somebody else's kids barfed in the back, or, it's stuff like that.
I know.
I'm kind of fussy that way. I want my car because I looked after it.
We did have a BMW X5 and we leased it. And at the end of the lease, we owed more than what the vehicle was worth at the time. And the reason for that is they were bringing in a lot of U.S. vehicles that Canadians were buying, and it ended up depreciating our Canadian vehicle. So it just didn't make sense for us. We walked away from the lease.
Do you know what that was, Andrea? Those were the good old days. Two things happened. I can clearly remember what happened. Those were the good old days, Andrea, when our Canadian dollar was at par with the U.S. dollar. And in fact, for about 2 seconds, the Canadian dollars was worth more. Actually, we bought our first Cayenne when the dollar was at par.
That's right.
So actually, it was after that car when we got the Cayenne. So
we just had to take the hit.
It was 2008.
Yep.
And so our car was a Canadian car. And then the other part of the equation was fuel prices at that point skyrocketed around North America. I can't remember why, but fuel prices skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So we had a 4.4 liter V8 X5, and it was a Canadian car, and there was all these cheap American cars coming in, and nobody wanted the V8.
Nobody wanted it.
So we just said, the great thing about the lease is we just said, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And then we got our Cayenne.
We had to walk away. With more hybrids coming, when do you think GM or VW will have Equinox Terrain Hybrid and Tiguan Hybrid? So we've actually spoken to both manufacturers about this. Chevrolet, GM,
They're not saying anything.
they say they're monitoring the market and will proceed as needed. And then Tiguan, well, bad news. We actually thought with this new design of the Tiguan that it would get a hybrid. And we've been told, no, I mean, it's down the line. It's not coming soon.
It is coming, but it's not going to be a plug-in. It's going to be a straight hybrid.
Yeah.
But they have to re-engineer their hybrid system, which is only a two-wheel variant that's sold in Europe. They have to engineer it to be an all-wheel drive. So the engineers in Wolfsburg are working on that. There's 30,000 engineers. You know that?
I know.
Get
That's
30,000
what they said.
engineers.
Yeah.
I bet you one of them is named Klaus. I would bet that. Anyway,
Wow.
they're working.
Wow, Zach.
It's or Hans, and they're working on it. And the soonest I think they said was 2027.
The soonest 2027. So that's a few years from now. Don't you ever feel that you can only have two of the three when it comes to vehicles? Great reliability, great drivability, great styling and design.
That's kind of true.
You aren't wrong on that. I totally agree.
What was the first thing? The drivability, styling.
Okay, reliability.
Okay, what was
drivability, great styling and design.
Okay, no, I disagree with that. There's one car that fits all of that.
What?
911.
Okay, well that's different.
A 911, reliable, good design, and amazing reliability.
And great drivability.
Yeah, drivability. Yeah. Just get a 911. That's the thing about they make high quality car.
They do, and they're beautiful. I mean, I think we can all agree a 911 is pretty special. You can't put anybody in there, but it's fabulous.
We're missing one, Andrea.
What?
Ruby, little MX-5 Miata.
MX-5, reliable. Good resale value. Oh, you didn't say it. Reliability, drivability, great styling and design. Come on, MX-5, the Miata. Stunning.
Just don't go to Costco and get your 36 rolls of toilet paper.
No. You can put one roll, though. I checked it out and some other stuff. But it is and
I'm saying that because just this morning I went to Costco.
You did go to Costco.
And I didn't take the Miata.
I don't think that you're wrong in majority of cases. It is tough. I mean, we've talked about this many times because somebody will put reliability number one on their list. And sometimes you guys come down on Zach and I because we say we pick a vehicle based on the way it handles. Driving is a huge, drivability is a huge factor for us. Reliability is not. And I get that when you chime in with some comments, and we appreciate the comments, by the way, and the feedback, that, hey, reliability is number one on my list. And that
but it's not for everyone.
I'm spending a whole load of money and I don't want to be back and forth to the dealership. And I think that you're 100% right. And anybody who writes in or asks us personally and says reliability is number one for me, we
just send you down to the Toyota dealer. Listen, I think that there is a little sweet spot, Andrea. If we're talking about a utility vehicle, nice looking, it isn't the biggest in its class, but it has the powertrain has been around for a long time, and it's proven to be reliable. It's a good-looking unit, but it's not the biggest in its class, and it's going to be replaced soon. We're going to see it maybe this summer, is the CX-5 from Mazda.
Yeah.
And it's a good handling, nice-looking, proven to be reliable. So there you go. There's one.
But people will say the back seat's too small.
I just said that. It's not the biggest.
Yeah, I mean,
that wasn't on the criteria. It didn't have to be the biggest.
No. But you're right. Mazda, many of their older models, and people complain about the 6-speed automatic transmission not having enough gears, but it's a good one. And as you guys know, who know me, I'm a big Mazda fan. Love it. Okay, back in Miami, you can choose from an endless supply of license plate options, from supporting your favorite team or supporting a cause, or in my case, being a proud alum of the University of Miami Hurricanes, living in Van City now and not needing insurance decals on our plates anymore. Why not allow us to get a large variety of government-approved plates to add style or uniqueness to our rides, similar to the BC provincial parks, once they presently only offer? It would be another way to generate funds for present and future Ministry of Transportation and Transit projects.
Wow, that's a lot of thought went into that. But you're
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Good
there's
point.
sometimes governments just can't see past the end of their nose. And you know what? You have to hand it to Florida. They're a much more entrepreneurial part of the world.
Yeah.
Low taxes. They have an entrepreneurial spirit. They have people moving there every single day. And you know, things like that are just so simple and can generate revenue. Absolutely right. One thing that drives me crazy, you remember the old hockey rink that was down near where we
Oh.
live? This one drives me nuts. There was an old hockey rink, and I don't know
Popular.
I don't know if you know this, but in Canada we're kind of crazy for hockey, right? And we don't have enough sheets of ice.
Nope.
So what did they do? They said, well, the hockey rink is old and it needs to be retrofitted with a new ice making system. And so what did they do? They tore it down and they turned it into a parking lot with a little bit of green space around it.
It's supposed to be a little park with a sitting area.
And I said to Andrea, why didn't they go and get a big corporate sponsor like Bell or Rogers or TELUS or somebody and stick their name on it, and we could have a brand new sheet of ice? Like, that kind of stuff drives me crazy.
Instead, because we had the Olympics in 2010, they built this beautiful facility.
And it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, with one ice rink. But that ice rink needs to be shared with not only public skating, but also events and also hockey and figure skating. So, you know what? If they had just kept that and used it for public skating, that would free up more space.
But back to my point,
at
to
the other one.
what this person's saying is, come up with an idea where you can generate revenue using the public's real estate, which is a license plate.
Yeah.
If you want to put on the Miami Dolphins on your plate and you pay extra for that and the government makes money, go for it.
Or
if they wanted to stick TELUS, by the way, is a phone provider, on the side of that arena and we still have it, I'd be like, great.
Why not?
They spent the money on it. So should I get a Vancouver Canucks license plate?
I think
Should
you
I order
should.
that now?
I think you should. My gosh, they could
I'm not
sell it
going-
at the store.
I don't want a Patterson one though.
Oh, be nice.
Okay,
Don't
just
cause
quick
trouble.
Quick story. Quick story.
no.
It's not really that quick. We were flying to Phoenix.
Oh gosh.
We were flying to Phoenix for an event, a car event, and it was also the beginning of the All-Star break. And we're sitting at the front of the plane. We had nice seats. So I'm sitting 1A, Andrea's
beside him.
1D, or no, C, and then 1D across the aisle is Elias Pettersson, the highest paid Vancouver Canuck, our hockey player. And then Andrea says hello to him, says hi to the girlfriend. They have their dog in there. And
We're really chatting it up.
Yeah, and then ever since then, he has been a shadow of himself. And in our house, because we love to joke, we say it's because you gave him the curse, Andrea.
They said Drea put a curse on him, and Zach tells everybody.
No,
so
I say you've been bad luck.
You've been bad luck, and then so Zach tells everybody this, and even some of the journalists that were on the flight with us, we were going to an event. They're like, "Oh, what's up with Pettersson?" And then, wow.
Well, Andrea talked to him on the plane, and ever since then,
And it
he's
is
never been the same.
It is true.
From that
it's
moment
like I
on.
rattled him or something. I was super nice, and I talked to the girlfriend, and they had their dog with them,
Anyway,
and it was a great conversation.
It has
but
nothing
I've
to
rattled them.
It has nothing to do with Andrea. It's just
But it is a fun story.
It's a fun story at our dinner table. We like, because every time they lose and Pettersson does something, we go, it's the Drea curse.
So we live in a neighborhood where there are some hockey players from the Vancouver Canucks that live in our neighborhood, and our boys say, if you see them, Do
Don't
not
talk.
speak to them. Say nothing.
All right,
Don't even look.
I'm getting hot now here, Andrew. Let's shut this down. I got to go and find an ice rink somewhere.
Okay, what am I saying here? Okay, if you want to get a question in, follow on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out asking for questions, and once we gather them, the post is deleted, and they come in fast and furiously. So get it in, and thanks for watching.
Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.